Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by. On the show this week, I talk with Swartz. Shy is an instrument repair technician based out of Ohio. If you haven't seen her videos, stop what you're doing, or best, watch this and then stop what you're doing and watch her videos. She can repair not only instruments, but amps and pedals and pretty much anything electronic. And it's amazing. She has these videos on Instagram. She walks you through it. And, her depth of knowledge is remarkable. She was so kind. I reached out. She took the time to talk to me, and it was a great conversation. Let's check it out. Tell everyone who you are.
Shy. I'm a musical instrument repair technician. I specialize in a pretty wide variety of musical instrument repair. Been doing it since I was 16 years old and absolutely love it.
Right on. Right on. Where are you from originally?
I am from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. And are you a musician as well?
Yes.
Um, how did you get into repair? Because if anyone has watched your videos, uh, you do have a wide range of repairs. I mean, you'll touch some things that some quote unquote repair techs won't touch.
hmm so I got started in musical instrument repair when I was about 16 years old. It just started out with me basically modifying and then eventually building guitars. After that, I then started building and modifying amplifiers that I had. And from that point on, I just kind of kept going with it and just went from there.
Are you self-taught?
Yes, I am.
Completely.
Mhm.
So, what was the first guitar you took apart? Was it your own? Was it?
Mhm. The very first guitar that I ever took apart was it was an Epiphone Special 2, and, the reason I had to take it apart was because, the jack I lost that on my guitar, and I had no other guitar, so I had to fix it. I disassembled it and ended up finding a, broken solder joint on the jack of the guitar, and, I, like, went downstairs. I was probably, like, 15 at this point. I went downstairs in my dad's toolbox and just kind of found whatever type of solder there was, I'll be honest. It was probably, like, plumber's solder, like, not even the right materials, and, used, like, an old Weller gun style, soldering gun, and went in there and managed to get a decent enough connection to get it back up and running, and from that point, I was just inspired to take things apart and see what I could do to them.
Right, right. And I caught wind of you online like everyone else. Someone sent me one of your videos and you repaired a Rockman.
Mhm,
And that one has a lot of views. Um
mhm.
Something like that, when you open it up, you're not intimidated by what's going on in there.
Oh, absolutely not. Honestly, one of the main reasons that I'm not intimidated by it, I don't know how much you know about the Rockmans, but they were designed by Tom Schultz from Boston, and he went to I believe it was MIT,
MIT, yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. The engineering process of those units is just amazing. I mean, it only takes 3 screws to disassemble. The board folds open. It's very nicely laid out. So no, when I open things up like that, I don't necessarily feel intimidated, just because the person who designed it was somebody just like myself, so they kind of thought about all of those, thought about technicians kind of in the future. He really is an amazing, amazing, engineer.
Yeah, he is. His older units are amazing too. The
Mhm.
actual rack mounts. What made you want to share all this online once you started doing this?
That's a good question. As I have always held the belief that I believe information should be free to anybody. I know how difficult it was when I first started out trying to learn and not having a whole lot of resources at my disposal. And I had to resort to reading things like RCA tube manuals, and this was all before we had AI and stuff like that too. So it's not like you could chat GPT, like, what page is this on? You were, scrolling through and reading all of this stuff. Um, like I said, I think information should be free. So I do it because I want to help other people either repair their gear or send it to me, and I can help people make music.
Yeah. And do you get gear from all over? Do people send it to you from all over?
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually have some stuff on my desk. I have like a Zoom from Australia. I've had some people ship stuff from New Zealand, all over the world. Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of just blossomed into the really anywhere in the world.
And on that topic of you wanting to share your knowledge and help other musicians or beginning repair techs, what are some of the common mistakes you see come in your shop when someone has either damaged their gear or tried to repair it themselves? Is anyone using plumber solder?
Oh my goodness. I mean, there have been some repairs that I have seen individuals do that are not the best quality. But in all honesty, normally it's not actually the technician who is quote unquote doing the bad job. It's more so that they don't have the proper setup, and that's yielding really bad results. Uh, Most individuals just use like a little pencil iron that you can't control the temperature on, or anything like that, where it's a set temperature. You have to adjust temperatures a lot when it comes to soldering to ensure that you don't lift traces or damage the board and stuff like that. What I normally see is pencil irons that are way too hot, and people will just like start to touch the trace, and the entire trace just kind of lifts, and then it turns into a big mess, and they try to fix it, which makes it even worse. So it's not necessarily the people who are making the mess, it's more so they just don't have the proper tools.
And what soldering iron do you swear by? Are you a Heiko? Are you a Weller? Or
Ooh, so I really, really like Weller, but the folks over at Pace Worldwide actually reached out to me and were very kind to send me I'd have to look and make sure it's the right one. I believe it's the MB160. I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. But Pace Worldwide, their irons are pretty expensive, but I will say they are by far the best iron I have ever used in my life. Extremely fine tips on all of their soldering irons that come stock. You can program different channels. You can even put a password on the soldering irons to put
wow.
into perspective how in depth that it really is. I like them because they heat up really quickly, and they just do a really good job.
And they reached out to you on the strength of your social media activity and the repairs you post?
Yeah, actually, the one of the head people over at Pace actually just happened to see one of my videos and enjoyed it. They didn't. I was not paid promotion or anything like that. They simply were like, "Hey, we really enjoy your stuff. Here's a free soldering iron." Um, and whenever companies do that, I always, take care of them and make sure to promote them, because if their product's good, they deserve to be promoted and more people to get their soldering irons in other people's hands.
Yeah. Have you been approached by any companies that you're like, no, I'm good? You know, thanks for the.
I have been approached by a few companies. I had a company reach out to me that was like, "Hey, would you like a retractable extension cords for your place?" I was like, I'm good. Like, I appreciate it, but like I personally am also somebody who's like very like anti-consumption unless like it's something I genuinely need. So it's like if I can't use it, I'd rather it just not be made in the first place.
Yeah. And for
Mhm.
all the aspiring repair people or tech heads, when you talk about temperature when soldering, What is the difference in temperature, and what's your suggestion? Like if someone is soldering an output jack as opposed to soldering on a circuit board?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to jacks and stuff like that, they are very, very forgiving for the most part. If we're talking about like guitar jacks, if we're talking about like power inlet jacks that would, mount to a PCB, you do have to still be careful with those because you can actually melt the housing of it. Um, as far as temperature settings go, how I was talking about essentially those little pencil irons you find inside your house just, laying around. That would be more appropriate for like soldering a guitar jack because the temperature doesn't matter all that much. There's not any parts that can really melt on a guitar jack. And you're not going to damage the guitar jack by heating it up excessively, generally speaking.
Yeah.
When it comes to PCB, you definitely have to be careful. I found that the best operating temperature for me is around anywhere from 650 to 700. Um, if I'm soldering something that, for example, death capacitors inside of old vintage amps, where you're soldering a leg of a capacitor, or in my case, removing the
Uh-huh.
capacitor, and they put a very large pool of solder there. You have to turn your iron up pretty hot. I mean, I max it out when I'm doing stuff like that because the solder, the heat just kind of dissipates so quickly when you have that much that you really have to get it hot. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of a thing of trial and error. To anybody out there who's wanting to get into instrument repair, anything like that, what I would recommend is just going to your local thrift store and picking up like a old TV or any type of electronics that's going to have PCB in there, and just get an iron and remove and play with components, see what works, see what temperature is too hot, just so you kind of get your bearings when it comes to temperature adjustment.
Yeah. And when you talk about melting the board, how many boards did you melt when you first started? Or did you do that? Did you go get old circuitry and work on it?
In all honesty, I never really melted a board. I've been really lucky to have good equipment just from starting out. You can buy, I can't remember the name of the weller that I'm thinking of, but it's a little light blue weller, super common.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah.
about $100. Great soldering iron, tried it true. Um, I didn't really melt many boards, but just kind of experiment and get your bearings. Yeah.
When you started this, did you feel like, oh, this is it? Did you had a very good knack for it? That you know
Um,
when you
somewhat. I didn't necessarily think that I would be doing musical instrument repair necessarily as a career path. Um, I went to trade school and did graphic art and design. I was then offered a full ride scholarship to fine art school for hyper realistic drawing and stuff like that. Uh, but I ended up deciding against that because I wanted to go more so into the music field. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, but I ended up getting hired at kind of a big box store type guitar shop. And when they learned that I knew how to do like basic setups and stuff like that, I started doing that. And then I just kind of was like, okay, well, I should start doing this more, and helping out more people. And it just kind of, you know, happened.
Yeah, yeah. When you talk about getting hired a bit at a big box store and they found out you could do basic setups and repairs, that leads me into what I'm going to ask you next. Do you find that being a woman in this business, uh, are there any challenges you face towards that? I'm a touring guitar tech, and there, I love to see women who are doing what we do in the backline field and guitar tech.
Mhm.
You've run into any challenges like, you know, you're
Um,
pretty good for a girl, or that type of stuff?
I mean, I've definitely experienced misogyny in the field before. I will say, however, when it comes to like my online fan base and people who send me stuff, never once have I experienced any type of, disrespect, bigotry or anything like that. Um, Before I opened my own business, I used to work at a different repair shop, not the big box store, but a actual instrument repair shop. And that particular, 1 second, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Uh, that particular job, we dealt with a lot of churches and things like that. So, there were a lot of individuals who just believed in more traditional values and things like that. One of the one time that I remember experiencing blatant misogyny was I had a old guy come in from a church, and he had a keyboard with a contact issue, which is one of the most basic repairs that I do. I could do, when I worked there, I probably did, 15 of those a week, so nothing out of the usual. And he needed it very quickly. And I was the only one who ran the shop. The other technicians, they were out on the road. Um, and he was like, "Well, I need this done really quickly." I was like, "Oh, I'll have it done for you by the end of today, because you need it for church service." And he was like, "Well, no offense to you, but I don't think that women are capable of doing this. Like, you guys, like, biologically are incapable of doing that." And I probably shouldn't have done this, but with just the reaction, I was like, "Okay, then it's gonna be 8 weeks." I said, "Because all of the male technicians are out on the road." I said, "So they prioritize stuff in the shop when they feel like it." I said, "So I'll go ahead and just mark you down as you want a male technician. That's totally fine." And then he's like, "Well, that's not fair." He's like, "Well, how can you do that? That's not fair to me." I'm like, I can help you. I can help you. I'm giving you an option to solve this problem, but if you're going to, you know, prioritize a male over a woman, that's your choice, but it's not gonna work out the way that you want it to."
Yeah.
Um, he eventually let me go ahead with it and help him out, but he was like, "Oh, wow, you actually did do a good job." I'm like,
You had to
"I
sell
know."
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay because, I understand, like, as far as like, religion, I think also kind of played a role into that, and also him just being older too. So, I just kind of deal with it based off vibes. If somebody's being super disrespectful, I'll blatantly be disrespectful to
Yeah.
them. If they're chill about it, I mean, I'll just kind of low key deal with it.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing you've ever repaired? The weirdest, repair you've ever done?
Oh goodness. The craziest repair that I ever did, people can go find the video. It's on my Instagram. It's called "The Dirtiest Piano I've Ever Cleaned." I felt absolutely horrible for this customer. They had a massive piano recital, like in front of thousands of people, and they wanted to buy a new piano, so they bought not a brand new piano. They went on Facebook Marketplace and bought a piano,
Mhm.
and they didn't have the ability to test it when they purchased it off Facebook Marketplace. And when they got it home, they just heard stuff rattling around in the inside, and notes were not sounding. Just everything about this piano was just not good. Uh, so they brought it into me for repair, and the first thing that I noticed about it was the smell. And I'm pretty chill. I get, everything has a smell, but this smelled really bad. And as soon as I got it open, there was I'm gonna keep it a buck 50 with you. I don't even know what it was. It was like vomit, kitty litter, aquarium gravel. Like, I don't even know what it was, I mean, it was all over the piano, it was on the speakers, all the circuit boards. I had to disassemble this piano and basically completely wash every single component, all the keys, everything, and then reassemble it. And the guy needed it in 2 days, so it was an emergency repair. So it was pretty bad.
Violent.
Yeah.
How often do you get someone bring something in and say, "Hey, I needed this yesterday. I need it yesterday. Do it."
uh, in all honesty, there are a lot of people that are that way, but I'm pretty upfront with my customers. I'm very backlogged on work because I mean, I log on to my email and there's 75 people every single day sending me emails that they need me to help them out. And I try my best to help all of them out. It's honestly to the point where I need to hire another technician and get somebody else in here to help me out because there's just such a demand for it out there.
There really is. How do you stay current with modern technology? Like, how do you stay current? Do you get any Kempers in or gear like that? Any of the new modelers?
I haven't yet. I wish I could. I love Kempers. I really like Sleep Token, and that's when their guitarist runs through their main. I don't know if he runs it anymore actually, but Kemperhead was what he used to use. But just in general, I mean, fundamentally, everything is the same to some extent. So a lot of the knowledge that you will have regarding older amplifiers could very easily be translated over to newer ones. Just in general, the biggest thing I find with electronics is if you fundamentally understand how the components that you're working on work, you should be able to track down any issue in theory.
Yeah. And you mentioned Sleep Token. We spoke with a singer and her guitar player, and they were really into Sleep Token. Is that the type of do you get excited when someone like that you admire follows you or reaches out to you? And has that happened?
Not with Sleep Token. Sleep Token is very ambiguous in the sense that they don't follow anybody except their band members. I It's always cool when, you know, popular, famous people follow you or reach out. It's always an enjoyable experience. Yeah.
I mean, Stu Mack follows you on Instagram. That's a pretty big deal in my eyes.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah. I've actually been out to Stumax here in Ohio. They are out in the like Hocking Hills area,
Mhm.
Akron-ish. So I've been out to their place before. Really cool. I don't. You're probably familiar with Dan Earlywine, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. My boyfriend, he's also a musical instrument technician. Me and him both, we collect a lot of gear, so we are always, just collecting. And we had Dan do some guitar work for us. So while we were out there, we saw the Stumac store, and we got to meet Dan and see his shop. So it was really cool.
Wow, that is pretty cool. What advice would you give somebody um, that they should check before they just give up on a piece of gear and throw it away or put it, give it away or,
They can send it to my shop. If you want to throw away any gear, just send it my way. I'll take it off your hands. uh, in all seriousness, some of the most common things. Let's see if I have something laying around here that I can show you. Let's see here.
I've been
One of
eyeballing that
the
this entire interview, that thing in
Yeah.
your hand.
Oh yeah. This guy right here. This is a Rockman sustainer. This was gifted to me by Steve Stevens for Billy Idol. One of the most common things that people will overlook is they'll be like, I have no sound. Well, all of these jacks back here, you have to think about it. If there's a jack in there, there is a lot of tension internally on that jack. One of the most common issues for loss of sound is just touching up the cracked and loose solder joints back there. If you do that, a lot of the time sound will return. Another thing that a lot of people kind of overlook too is recapping. Recapping needs to be done every 10 to 15 years. Can be one of the main causes for loss of sound.
That's a pretty cool thing to know, pretty cool fact. Um, because a lot of the very first time I took an amp to get repaired, and the amp tech said it needs new caps. I had no idea what he was talking about.
Mm.
He then walked me through it. But
Mhm.
here I was thinking it just needed to be retubed. One thing I'll ask you about, and you can answer or not, but you do post this. It's like a disclaimer: is the way your voice is very cracky and
Mhm.
raspy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a condition called GERD syndrome. It's not anything rare. I'm pretty sure like 10 to 15% of the population struggle with GERD syndrome. Just basically acid reflux. Sometimes it can be caused by the foods that you eat. In my case, it's not really all that simple because I've been a vegan since I was eight, so I don't really eat a lot of greasy foods or anything like that. Um, Mainly, it just affects my speaking voice. When I sing, I can, you know, I'll know how much you know about how the voice works, but you lift your larynx naturally when you sing. There's basically just like a little piece inside of my throat on my esophagus that has a lot of scar tissue there. So it just kind of vibrates against my larynx in my speaking voice. But if I project my voice really loud or I sing and naturally lift my larynx and it's not touching that, my voice will sound a lot clearer. But the more that you essentially like if I were to speak without a rasp and you speak with your larynx lifted all the time, that would allow more acid to come out of my stomach and basically just travel higher in my throat and exacerbate the problem itself.
Uh-huh.
So it's annoying that I'll be straight up honest, I hate the sound of my voice. It's annoying to listen to, but I also don't want to cause even more damage to the point where like I no matter if I'm singing or I'm speaking, it sounds like this. So it is annoying, but I try my best to record early in the morning. My voice tends to not be as raspy in the morning. And as I progressively go throughout the day, I it just gets more irritated.
Yeah. Well, I know,
Yeah.
I hate hearing the sound of my voice. So,
Mhm.
and that's a common thing. But have you also noticed that the sound of your voice adds to your videos? Like people, it's very relaxing when you watch
Mhm.
your videos to hear you walk step by step through it. Pretty soon it just
Mhm.
becomes part of the whole
Mhm.
experience.
Yeah, I mean, I find that there's either one of two people. There's either people who are like, your voice is so relaxing, I love it, or people are like, you sound like RFK Jr. And that just cracks me up. Like I have heard I love hate comments. Like when people leave me hate comments, I just laugh at hate. I don't take it personally. And one of the hate comments that just cracks me up and lives in my mind rent free was one that I got super early on. Am I allowed to cuss on
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
You
yeah,
guys
yeah.
keep it. Okay. This one person commented, why the fuck do you sound like a rodent? And I was like, oh my God. And I love that. And just like, that's so funny to me that people would comment stuff like that. But I mean, you kind of have to expect it. You have to have tough skin when you do
Yeah.
that, you know? You can't be bothered what other people think of you.
And speaking of trolls, because we're talking about social media, do you get a lot of what I refer to as screw turners that are telling you, well, you could be doing it this way, but you're doing it. Do you get a lot of trolls that want to correct the way you're doing things?
Not really, because when I'll be honest, I'm equally a smart ass. So if people say smart ass things to me, I'll say smart ass things back. I've had people that I've had some individuals who will just leave really rude comments and try to like roast you. And then I'll be like, actually, this information is wrong. This is why you were wrong. And this is why I'm correct. Or if somebody genuinely says something that makes more sense and I am doing something wrong, I don't have problem taking accountability. I'll be like, dang, that's actually a really good suggestion. I'm gonna try that the next time.
Yeah. If you weren't doing what you do now, was there anything else you wanted to do other than play music
Other than play music,
or
good
be
question.
the graphic designer,
Um, Not really, in all honesty. I I'll be honest, my main goal is to make music. I have always been somebody who has wanted to be on stage and share music, and help people with my music. If I were not in the music industry, I think I would probably end up doing fine arts. That's probably what I do. I'm
still a
not to
creative?
Yeah, I mean, I a lot of people always tell me they're like, "Well, you're just really good at art, you should do art and do that." But it's like, there's a difference between, having a hobby and wanting to be a full-time artist, because that's a big job in itself.
Yeah, it is. It is. Um, you've mentioned you make music. Do you have a band?
I do not have a band. I actually make all of my music myself. I'll sometimes contract out like session musicians, mainly just drums. Everything else I do myself. I just don't have enough space to set up a drum kit right now and learn, but I plan on learning at some point.
So you're pretty driven. If there's something you want to do, you just learn to do it.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, One thing I do like about your all your social media is you're very open about being a supporter of the LGBTQ community.
Mhm.
Um, how do you feel? Do you ever get any hate because of that? Because you're so open about supporting that community?
Um, I honestly haven't experienced much hate, but I'll be honest with you. When I see any type of hatefulness or bigotry, no matter what it is, I know I live in Ohio. I'm surrounded by right-wing conservatives all the time, so it's not my first rodeo dealing with people who have opposing viewpoints to me. Um, you know, all forms of hate and bigotry either come from uneducated, being completely isolated from a diverse community, or people being taught to hate, because hate is not something that is inherent to a human being. You don't pop out of the womb calling people the F slur, you
Yeah.
know. So when I encounter people like that, I know that it's one of those things. So I either will ignore it or I will just be like, dude, you need to get out of like whatever little white neighborhood you're living in, and you need to go into a city, and you need to like talk to people who are completely different from you, um, and just get diverse experiences. That's kind of the viewpoint I have. If anybody is being outwardly like homophobic or transphobic, I'll like their ass as a new one in a second. I'll have a problem doing it. I don't put up with it.
Well, Shai, thanks so much for taking the time
Mhm.
to do this. You're a hard person to get a hold of, but thank you for replying to me. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so all of my social media handles are the same. It's Miss Shy Must Die. You can find me on Instagram. That is my main platform. You can find me on TikTok too, and YouTube.
And they can find contact information to get a hold of you to send you gear or
Yeah, so if you want my contact info, you do have to send me an email. Just because of like stalking and people being crazy online. I don't share that openly, but yeah, if you need to get in contact with me, you can fill out a contact form on my website, or you can send me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. I reply to all of the comments and messages, so I'll do my best to get back to you.
Right on. Well, I do appreciate your time because I enjoy your videos. Uh, I love. I'm a firm believer in you surround yourself with better musicians, better techs, better. Then that's how you learn. And when I
Mhm.
came across yours, I'm like, I love this because I learned so much from your videos. I may not apply it on a daily basis, but I will refer back to it. You know,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
something you've done that helps me do my job better. So,
Well, that's
you
good to
know,
hear.
yeah.
Out of curiosity, how did you get into being a touring tech?
I I was a runner locally and I got a gig with a country artist who was looking for a guitar tech, or actually they were looking for a merch guy, and then that didn't
Mhm.
work out. And they said, "Well, can you do guitars?" And I was very basic. I knew how to fix my guitars. I didn't. So that's how I did it. And from then on, I really, really loved it and just started networking. To Within a few years, I was on some pretty major tours, and I felt very grateful and very lucky that that happened. But that's how I did it. Um,
That's really cool.
yeah, so if we come out through Ohio, you guys will have to come out and see a show or something.
Oh
Maybe I'll put
yeah.
you to work.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could put me to work.
Do you ever
I'd
do
have
remote
fun.
work like that? Do bands ever come through town and get your number or whatever? And do you ever go on site to?
Sometimes I do some on-site stuff. I do a lot for schools. My boyfriend, he is honestly just as good as I am, if not better than I am at musical instrument repair. He has worked with some people. He came out and helped fix the Grateful Dead's organ, actually Dead and Co. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when they were down here in Cincinnati, they needed somebody to come out, and he came out and fix their Hammond B3 that they've been touring with since the beginning of the band. So he does a lot more of that stuff. I like to kind of stay here and hang out. I'm also like antisocial, so I get nervous going
Yeah.
places.
Well,
But
that makes us feel good here because you took the time to talk to us here.
oh yeah, yeah. This is okay. It's just like going out to the real world. I'm like,
Being
oh.
around people.
Yeah, yeah. That crowds.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Well, our podcast, it's called Is Breakfast Included? And
Mhm.
if we were having breakfast, what would you have?
Ooh, if I was having I normally just have coffee for breakfast. That's
Hey,
normally what I do,
that's
just
accepted.
coffee.
That's
Oh yeah.
accepted. Cream, sugar, black. How do you have your coffee?
Uh, Normally just black, and then I chase it with like two monsters afterwards. It's bad. I need to quit with the monsters.
Well, it says it has minerals on the can, so it can't be that
Oh
bad.
yeah. Yeah.
Vitamins
This
and
is
minerals.
like the third one today. Literally, I'm not even kidding. The third one today. It's bad.
Well, Shai, thank you so much for your time. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you. Good
Thank you
talking
for
to you.
having me.
Right on. Shy Swartz. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. You can find out more about their shop at resurrectioninstrumentrepair.com. Check it out, get a quote, look at some of the other instruments and things she's worked on. You can follow her and watch her videos at TikTok and Instagram at Miss Shy Must Die. You can also follow her on Facebook under the same handle. And while you're online, check out isbreakfast.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram from there. Go to our YouTube channel, click on there, subscribe, like, comment, do whatever you want. Just watch the video. You can also rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. That helps us a lot, more than you know. And while you're there, pick up a shirt. All right, guys, I want to thank Shai for taking the time to talk to me. I'm done. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.